Okay, now for the third time, this is just stopped recording for some odd reason. Okay, so yes, we started the phylum Arthropoda. Okay, so what are some classes within that we've discussed so far within the phylum Arthropoda? Meristomata, who are those? Okay, yes, those are horseshoe crabs. And then we briefly started talking about which class? The arachnids, okay? And then one of the things that we're going to find out is when we look at Tuesday's schedule, it says Scorpionida. And then that is just another order of arachnids because those are the closest relations to that of the spiders, which is Arachne, is the order for spiders. Scorpionida is the order for scorpions. And then we'll eventually get to the ticks and mites. Okay, so what's another phylum we've discussed? Which one? Mollusks. So who are some examples, animals of mollusks now? Squids is one. Okay, those are in the same class, which is what? Cephalopods, okay? So who's another mollusk we could discuss? An animal. Okay, clams. What class are clams in? Those are bivalves. Then there is one more. Gastropods. And then who's the animal in the class Gastropoda? Snails, okay? So there are two other phylums. What are they? Cnidarians, and then we'll go into further in depth a little later. One more phylum. Sponges, poriferans, okay? I usually like to feel the cement blocks because cement is very, what do you think? It's very porous, so that's why what happens is even if it's a wet, if the ground is really wet, you can actually force that up to the cement because it's actually very, very porous. But unless you give it a type of treatment that seals that off, I believe in basements. I could be incorrect, but I think that's my understanding of that. Okay, so moving forward then. Oh, oops. I forgot to switch this over. Okay. I know this is the game you like to see if it's going to hit the center. This one could be close. Oh, no, not even close. No.
When it comes back around to the bottom right corner, it might. Oh wait, maybe this one.
Maybe this one.
I don't think so.
Oh, pretty close though. All right. Okay. So we've been talking about the, you want to call it the sensory setae, or these hair-like projections. And we saw that short segment in Home Alone, which I think is absolutely hilarious, of course. The character picks up that tarantula, okay, and specifically around its waist, it's called the pedicel, and around that structure, how many body segments do arachnids have? Now, arachne, we should say, because ticks are also arachnids, but they've only got one body segment, okay? Spiders have two, so do scorpions, okay? So it picks them up around its waistband, sets that on the, I don't know if you want to say villain, I suppose you could say bad guy or what's another word I'm looking, protagonist, is that, okay? And then the antagonist is the good guy, protagonist is the bad guy.
Well, other way around.
Oh, I got it through, okay, antagonist is the bad guy.
Protagonist is the good person.
Okay, I'm surprised I still remember some of them terms. Wow. hamster decided to wake up this morning. I don't know. Oh, we're too far forward? Okay. And back up we go. Whoops. Did I hit the right button? I don't think so. Okay. So we looked at this here, or we viewed this from public television. Only a few spiders can form images, and with that, what type of spider would do that? Not a specific species, but just in general. Was it a ground dweller? Was it a tarantula? When we say, we don't want a species of spider or just a largest class of spiders. But these are actually pretty small. We said their their unusual feat is that, what was it? Can move about, was it 10 times their body length in such a short amount of time? Yeah, jumping spiders can do that because it would certainly be an advantage to be able to see where it is you're going to land and before you actually would take flight to that. Okay, so those would have, of course, you have the 8 simple eyes, but then also more complex eyes that could perceive these moving objects. So why would nature select these animals to not have very good sight? How do they know that something is around them? Just like with, especially tarantulas are known for this. How do they know that there's potential prey items if they are not a web spinner? Right. So the air currents they can detect on their surface of their skin. That's right. So that's how they can perceive even moving objects. Now, whether it's sight related or their sensory setae, which we would talk about here, that are these hair-like projections. Okay, talking about these air currents. Step in front here just a moment. I don't know if the microphone tracks a certain distance. Had to warm the coffee up. Just a moment. I think I had in my mind we were just going to go through. I think there's just one more slide for the nervous system, and then we're going to move on and start talking about your getting you set for your semester exam. Let's put it that way, because we don't want to wait until the end and then start to, oh my gosh, we got to know all this. Okay, so I want to do this one. Oh, there's 2 of them. 3 of them. Man, I just can't count. Okay. All right. And what's odd, well, maybe not odd about these glands is it's believed there's approximately 7 different types of thread that a spider can actually utilize. So if it's all made of the same type of substance, just like with many different other systems in the body, it's going to be hormonal actions that actually control that. So is this going to be something they spin for a web? Is it going to be a drag line? Is it those are the only 2 types of thread that I can think of that they would spin. Of course, I really don't know enough that an entomologist would actually know. Of course, they study insects, so probably would certainly know more about this than myself. But when we watch that with the tarantulas, I do believe they talk about there's approximately 7 different types of thread that they can spin. Okay. And moving forward. And then there's that term we talked about before, okay? This is the second appendage on the anterior side, because the first one is the fangs or the chelicerae, the second are the pedipalps, then the next 8 would be its
walking legs, or 4 pair. Must not have anything to write. That's okay. Then we'll wrap that up with this today.
Okay. Does everyone have this content that write it down? Okay. Okay, so don't get that wrong. Yeah, because we're not talking about plants, we're not talking about fungi, we're not talking about archaic bacteria or protists, I think is another kingdom. But yes, there are 7 known kingdoms, and we're talking about this one, which is Animalia, or the animals. Okay? So this is something that you're going to build upon. I would suggest a portrait type, not landscape. No, this is portrait. This is landscape. I would suggest that you do this. It doesn't mean that you can't use your. Yeah, I know. I goofed with that. But like I said, it doesn't mean that you can't. Of course you can. Okay. But this is nothing new. The format that you're going to see here is not going to be the same format that you see on your exam. And what I mean by that is here we're starting with our first phylum, which is who? Okay? Okay? What was our second phylum? It had a silent C. Okay. And then who was our third phylum? It starts with an M. Mollusks? And then our current one. So if you say arthropods, that's fine. If you say arthropoda, of course, we're discussing the same thing. Okay. So then when we break this one down, do we remember how many different types of peripherans were there? Okay. Okay. Do we possibly remember? And you don't have to go in order, but sometimes I think it just makes the most sense to start with the oldest ones, and then as nature selected them to change, well then you get to those that are larger. Okay, so there's leuconoids, there's asconoids, and there's cycanoids. Which one was the first one? Maybe we put them in the order that they're supposed to be in. Leuconoids are the most complex. Cycanoids are in the middle. Asconoids were the first ones. Okay, that's right. So we could say asconoids. And we said cycanoids. Then leuconoids. Okay. So then the next thing we would want to state, what makes a sponge? What are some characteristics of those? Okay, so they are porous. Okay, they're porous. Now, you gave the right characteristics, which is true. Can that be repeated to the cycanoids and the leuconoids? You're nodding your head, yes, that would be correct. Okay, so then we could say that, change the color on here, because they're in the same phylum, so they have to have some characteristics that places them in that. They're also, of course, porous, filter feeders. Same thing. Porous, feeders. Now, we want to be just a little more specific with what we're going to write on this one. Do they have an osculum? Yes. But how could you be a little more specific? Okay, so these have multiple oscula. We're just going to use that as a plural form. Multiple oscula is the leuconoids. Okay. So this is what sets them apart from these two types of sponges. So there must be a characteristic that sets these two apart from that one, which there is. Oops. Okay. And it has, yes, has to deal with the shape. What would possibly be the shape? Who's the simplest? Yeah, the first one. Okay? So if that's the case, which it is, we would just write tubular. Oh, I don't want to put, it's still tubular. I'm going to put that. I don't want to have the same color on there. And then for this, how we want to differentiate between the leuconoids and the asconoids, and I think this makes the most sense. And this is what we would typically draw. We're going to put vase shaped. There's only one P. Okay. So that's how you tell the difference between that of those three classes of peripherans. Okay, those for our purposes, this is what we're going to use for that of the class names. And one of the things that, yes, this chart is going to get to be pretty full. That's true. But one of the things you have to remember is that some of these characteristics, they will repeat themselves, which they should, because that's what places these animals within this phylum. They got pores in them. They're filter feeders, and they have an osculum. Okay? Then, of course, there's one more characteristic that you could have put for that. Yeah, they don't move. They're also sessile. So then I think it's always important to maybe always put more than what you need, because who's to say how many of these characteristics we're going to ask for. Okay, so sessile. These don't move, so they're also sessile. And, of course, you can do that for here, too. Okay. Then I just want to do these three classes, just the class names, and I think because one of the things, that's why we wanted you to have plenty of space on here, and we're making this plenty big, so then however it is that you want to arrange that, okay? We just want the three classes of cnidarians now. Hydrozoa. Yep. Once you knock that first domino over, the rest will probably fall in place. Thought I heard it. Which one? And then the last one starts with an A. Anthozoa. Okay. I think that's probably enough for today. So we'll continue talking about the scorpions tomorrow, and then we'll move forward with, again, the arthropods. Okay, so that puts us about 24 minutes. It's probably enough to try to sit and play catch up with that, so we will catch up to you next time.